In this New World weapon video, we're going to be covering the Ice Gauntlet. This is a ranged weapon. It's a short to mid-ranged weapon that scales off intelligence only. So if you're going to be playing a ranged build that uses intelligence, this is a weapon you may use. Much like the Fire Staff, it uses mana for its attacks and its spells. So every light and heavy attack that you do is going to consume mana, and every spell that you cast is going to consume mana. So you have to manage that. And this is particularly difficult to do during the early portions of the game. Not too many of the spells are mana efficient, meaning you just don't get the damage out of them that you would get from a light attack unless you're hitting multiple enemies at the same time. And there are not a ton of spells in this weapon type that are AoE based, so you need to be careful not to run out of mana really quickly. And also, crafting mana potions can go a long way, or getting some mana potions in the early portion of the game until you can get some more passives that make things a little more mana efficient or increase the damage of these spells so you don't need as much in order to kill things. Another thing that I want to mention is that ice damage, the damage that the Ice Gauntlet deals to enemies, is a very good damage type early on in the game. Undead are weak to this damage type, so like the drowned you're fighting are weak to this. And animals are not neither resistant or weak to it, so they're going to take full damage, not extra or less. So between the two, you're doing a damage type that's going to, slaughter undead fairly easily, and it's going to do fairly well against animals. So this is not a bad weapon to use at early goings of the game. Taking a look at the Ice Tempest skill line first, the first ability is called Wind Chill. This is sort of a short channel that pushes enemies back while dealing damage to them. It has a very short range, and because it's a channel, you're at risk of being interrupted. It doesn't deal a ton of damage for the amount of mana it casts, so I don't recommend using this ability if you're going to use the Ice Gauntlet. The next ability is called Ice Spikes, and this sort of shoots out a trail of ice with one big pillar coming out of the ground dealing damage and a small AoE that deals a bit more than a regular attack, about 1.5 times or so. And it can be a little bit tricky. You can click the left mouse button after you cast it if an enemy is like right in front of you to make it not go the 8 meters and instead go right in front of you, so you get that damage, because you have to hit him with the main spike in order to get the damage. Otherwise you get like a fraction of the damage and it's not very good. It can be a hard ability to learn how to use. And again, it's another one that's not super mana efficient if you're fighting one target, but if you're fighting multiple enemies and you can hit them with that major spike, it might be worth it, but it's a rather small area until you get this ability upgraded. The next ability is called Ice Storm. This is probably my favorite ability in the Ice Gauntlet. It's a huge AoE that does damage over time. It slows enemies, and once you upgrade it, it not only increases its damage, it makes it so the targets inside take more damage, and if you have the capstone, then they're going to take even more damage. And what I really like about this ability is that you can use it at range. This is really good in dungeons or in PvP when there are large groups of enemies packed together. You'll see this often happen in PvP where several 3 or 4 players from one team will just dump this on like a group of enemies at once, and they'll just melt with their melee interacting with them. And what's really great about it is you can do it from range. And also, if you have the capstone of this tree that increases the ice damage that somebody does when they're in your ice ability, other players' ice damage is going to be factored into that, so their abilities are going to do more damage as well. So it's just a fantastic combination in PvP or in PvE when you're facing a lot of enemies, like in dungeons. There are a couple really good passives in this tree beside the capstone. The first one's called Critical Rejuvenation. This gives you mana back when you critically hit. You can't have enough mana with this weapon, so whenever you can get mana back, that's good. And even though you don't crit that often, when you do, getting 15 mana back is pretty good. The other one is Gathering Storm. You will often hit with 3 consecutive light attacks when you're just questing out on the landscape or when you're PvPing. So this should trigger often, and this should really, really dramatically help with your mana management. Make sure you get this ability very, very quickly. Usually I recommend that people get, 3 abilities, active abilities first, and then start working on their passives so that they have things to do. Well, the spells that you can cast with this weapon are really mana inefficient, so, maybe getting this as your 3rd ability would be better than getting a 3rd active ability if you can before you get a 4th active ability, because it'll allow you to attack more. Remember that basic attacks even consume mana, so it's going to allow you to attack more frequently even. Moving along to the Builder skill tree, the first ability here is called Ice Shower. This puts up like a sheet of ice kind of like in a line in front of you. And what it's going to do is it's going to CC and slow enemies that pass through it. So if you want to like put up a protective layer in front of you so that people trying to come melee you or rush you or enemies that are going to rush at you get stuck, this is a really, really good way to do it. The Ice Pylon is sort of a summon that you place down on the ground that acts as a turret and shoots enemies, but it also buffs you if you're standing near it. And the capstone of this skill line increases that radius dramatically that you can stand in. When you're standing in this radius, you get things if you take the passives, Quick Frost, Empowered Frost, and Refreshing Frost. When you're using spells, when you're standing next to this pylon, they'll either cost less mana, you'll gain mana back. So you want to stand near your pylon when possible. The last ability here is Entombed, and this is sort of like a protective ability that covers you in ice. And the ice has its own health bar, so enemies attacking it are going to be damaging it. They can break through it and still get to you. But it's kind of like a panic button. You'll see a lot of players in PvP use this when they're being focused by a group of enemies because the health of the ability is significant and it cleanses them of debuffs and increases their defense when they come out. A lot of times you'll see a team have this ability because when one of you, like maybe 3 or 4 of you are attacking one of them, they entomb, and then you guys are like, okay, I can't get through this for 10 seconds. Then they go to the next player and they entomb. Then if you got a lot of melee players, they have to keep running back and forth. And in this time, ranged units can keep attacking them or keep meleeing them. So it's a really good PvP ability. It has a lot less application in PvE. And another thing about it too is you can end the entomb early by pressing the button a second time. So let's say you press it, you've been in there for 3 seconds, people are wise, they leave, and you don't want to just be sitting there for another 7 seconds waiting to do nothing. So then you exit out of it and you start attacking again. Because Ice Gauntlet is an intelligence-only scaling weapon, you're probably going to want to pick other weapons that have intelligence scaling. This is either the Fire Staff, Rapier, or Musket, probably. These all have their advantages and disadvantages. Fire is going to give you a similar play style, but with a different damage type. Fire has a lot of AoEs, which is a lot more than the Ice Gauntlet has. So if you're lacking some AoEs, you could go for that. Or if you want a melee option, the Rapier is not a bad choice. It has a really good moveset. Or the Musket you could actually use to give you even more range, since the Ice Gauntlet is kind of short to medium range. If you want a longer range option, it's also not a bad idea. As I mentioned, the Ice Gauntlet is not a bad starting weapon because of the damage it deals. The ice damage is good against early game enemies. The only thing is you need to focus on maintaining your mana, and I've given you suggestions on how to do that. So if you're going to play an Ice Gauntlet early in the game, take those passive abilities, stand next to your Ice Pylon, and you won't have mana issues, and you'll be able to cast a lot faster, and you should enjoy your experience more. And much the way I mentioned in other videos, because you're going to be casting at range and your plan is to essentially not get hit, you should be wearing light armor, as this increases your damage by 20%. You want your spells to hit as hard as possible so that you kill things quickly and you can move on to the next creature or enemy or whatever, and you're not planning on getting hit, so you want to boost your damage as high as possible. Stay tuned for more weapon guides as we do all 11 weapons in New World, and be sure to check out the New World Wiki if you have questions about the game, or you can drop by Twitch and ask me, as we'll be streaming at launch. So what do you guys think of the Ice Gauntlet? Is it something you're incorporating into your build? What would you do? What skills would you take? Let us know in the comments below.